There's a card going around. I don't know who has it. It started with Bob in the back. It's here. Good. If you, I want everybody to sign it. Miss Tammy was kind enough to bring it. It is for Priscilla Timken's son, Rob, who is in the Navy, who is about to go on his first deployment the end of the month. And his wife, Eileen, asked if we would send some notes of encouragement to her. She's going to put them in a box or a package and send them on the ship with him so he can have some encouragement on this first deployment. And so that's really sweet of you, Tammy, to bring that, and we want to make sure everybody who wants to can sign it and send it to them. He's stationed in San Diego at present and is in the Navy. So, all right, so this... Oh, it works if I turn it on. So along about 2008, this is 2009. I did not have a picture of the 2008 group in digital form that I could grab hold of quickly. So this is not the right year, but it is some of the same youth. We went to Washington, D.C. on a work camp. For a while, we stayed at the International House of Prayer, or I'm not sure what that, the House of International, it wasn't the House of International Pancakes. Anyhow, we stayed there at this International Guest House. That's what it was. And we did various things. Miss Tammy and Miss Belinda were doing their magic and creating all kinds of fun opportunities. Some of the things we did, we worked at the DC Soup Kitchen one day, preparing meals to serve countless homeless folks and people in DC. And then we went to a food bank that got all kinds of almost expired or recently expired food that they rescued from grocery stores, and we sorted and put in packages and pallets to go out to various soup kitchens around the DC area. And on this particular trip, we had a free afternoon that we met up with the folks from the Church of the Brethren Washington office, and they gave us a guided tour of several of the monuments downtown DC. And all I know is we ended up at the Lincoln Memorial. So that's not the Lincoln Memorial, that's the Capitol, okay? I do know my DC monuments. That's the group, and that's a dome. That's why that picture's up there. And now Miss Tammy's saying, I know this one. And so we ended up at the Lincoln Memorial. So at one end of the mall in D.C. is the Lincoln Memorial. At the other end of the mall in D.C. is the Capitol, where there's a dome. And I wanted us to get, after the Washington office guy left, I became in charge of the group, and we had walked all afternoon and we were tired, but we needed to get back from the Lincoln Memorial to Union Station, which is behind the Capitol, and we were going to go a couple blocks behind Union Station to a coffee shop Ebenezer's Coffee Shop, that I had heard about and had been to, that's run by a church, and that church has multiple locations. Most of them are at metro stops on the DC Metro line, and this one was around the corner from the Union Station Metro stop. They developed a coffee shop to fund their mission and ministry, and then below that they had worship space, and I wanted us to go and enjoy some time in the ambiance of this coffee shop. 2008 was kind of on the beginning edge of coffee shops. Coffee shops weren't like they are now, and it was a really neat one, and I wanted them to see it. But the youth were tired and cranky. They had spent all afternoon walking to the Lincoln Memorial. And so we had a long ways to go, and I don't think they really wanted to get there. And you know how it is with kids when you go on a trip. You don't get very far on the trip, right, Matt? When they say, "Are we there yet?" I mean, that's incessant. I can't imagine coming all the way from Idaho to here in a car with 3 kids, and I bet you heard that question over and over again. So we heard that question a lot. And so DC is a city of domes. Not just the Capitol, but there are lots of buildings. The architecture in D.C. has a lot of domes. And so I would look at a dome and I would say, you see that dome there? We got to get to that. And then when we get to that, I'd say, no, you see that dome there? We have to go to that dome. And we get to that one, and I kept doing that. And that was their motivation to get to, that was the, it was hilarious and it was working. They got tired of it, but it kept them motivated to get where we wanted to go. And that's what it was about. And we have talked about that incessantly. And I mean, since 2008, we've been talking about it. And all I have to do is mention domes. And Miss Tammy's shaking her head and she's recalling that memory. That's a memory that will be with us for all of our lives. And obviously, Caroline was one of the youth on that trip because she's, and Emma, were you on that one? Okay. Yes, I see you on that one. Okay, well, you're the only one that's here among us. And I was getting the cues that Emma was not on that trip because she wasn't catching the dome. I know you've heard the story. So anyhow, I was trying to motivate them to get to where I wanted them to go by saying, see that dome? It's just on the other side of that dome, and we would do that. Well, Psalm 121, I think, is a motivating psalm for us on our journey of life as we wander through this world and through life. One day, last week, I happened to notice on Facebook that one of my friends, who used to be a pastor here in Easton, who's moved to Roanoke, Virginia, posted that he had been in a clergy gathering and that the psalm of the day was Psalm 121. And as soon as he posted that, I paid a little more attention to the posting. And he said that the pastor who was talking about it entitled it, Beloved Wanderings. And I thought, wow, that's a neat title. That's a neat concept for this psalm, except I've entitled it Beloved Wanderers, because I think it's more about us as we wander along, and I mean, travel along this journey, than about the beloved wanderings, because some of the wanderings we do aren't really beloved. We don't like where we find ourselves as we wander through life. But we are beloved wanderers. And so I thought that would be a great concept for us to explore this morning, because Psalm 121 is a journey psalm. It's written to encourage the children of Israel, the people who read this, to be encouraged as we journey through life, as we wander around. It is a psalm that I often use in my ministry with people who are struggling, who are overwhelmed with life circumstances, with people who are sick, with people who are facing death, with families after a loved one has died, because I think it is a psalm of encouragement. It's one that is often used at funerals, at least parts of it. You would hear, I look up to the hills, and where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. The Lord will watch your going out and your coming in from this time forward and forevermore. Those are phrases that you probably have heard at some funerals. And that's this psalm. This psalm serves as a reminder that in all of life, as we wander through the hills and the valleys, the good times and the bad, the easy times and the struggles, God is our help, our strength, our hope, our companion. Now, these past 3 days, I spent a significant amount of time with the Shores family, and that is Marie Shores. I just love that picture and her look at me. She was quite the character and quite a sweetheart. In that picture, she was 95, and I took her a birthday cake every year for a number of years. We started that first with her sister-in-law, Maddie, who lived with her, who was 106 and a half when she died. Well, actually, she was 2 months shy of 107. and Marie made it 10 years less. But I spent a significant amount of time these last 3 days with the Shores family as Marie made her way through the rest of this life into her life with her Lord Jesus. As I sat there with the family, this psalm, Psalm 121, was always on my mind. It was a prayer that I had for this family as they were facing the reality that Marie's days were coming to an end. And I thought about it a lot as I thought about Marie and her life and her faith. She had a deep confidence in Christ all throughout her life. No matter the struggle or the joy, Marie had a confidence and a trust in God as her source of help and strength. She knew that she was a beloved wanderer. Psalm 121 begins, "I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there?" Now that question can be looked at in a variety of ways. Like domes, mountains can help us find our way. They can help us keep our bearings. When we are so deep in the valley or in the woods, as long as there are mountains around and we can see that mountain peak or defining characteristics of the mountains, we can feel secure. I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of time in the mountains, and I've had my fair share, more than my fair share, of being lost in the mountains. And when you can look up and see a power line or a crop of rocks or some kind of a jagged top to the mountain or something that you recognize, you can get your bearings and feel a little bit of confidence. And when you can't, it's not a very fun feeling at all. I'll never forget one time we were camping at Greenwood, where we camped for the last 18, 19 years with friends of ours, and one of the guys always did something one day that none of the ladies and kids did, and so one of the guys got this idea that we would hike across the top of the mountain, and he said it's about a 5-mile journey, and we thought, okay, we're up for that, we can do it. We had these walkie-talkies. That was back before cell phones. And even if you had cell phones, there's no cell phone signal down in the campground. So we're walking across the top of this mountain, and it's going on, and it's hours go by and hours go by. And fortunately, we can see where we are because there's a power line, and we know where we are in relation to the power line. But once we crossed through that power line and got on the top of the mountain, we were kind of baffled and lost. We couldn't find our way down to the campsite. So we kept trying to call our women on these walkie-talkies, and it wasn't until we got a good ways beyond the power line that we finally connected with them. And we were totally lost. We didn't have a clue. I mean, we knew where we were on top of the mountain, but we didn't know where to come down off the mountain to come into camp. And it turned out that the hike was 14 miles instead of 5. And we said then that guy could not choose the activity anymore. We would not trust him. And for those that know, that was my friend Brian that did that. And so we called to the women, and the only way we could get down was we had to have them come to the road and yell for us in the woods so we could hear them and walk down to their voice. And that's how we got off the mountain. And it was a welcome sound to hear our women yelling when we got there. And the place that they were, where we went down, it was what we call a log chute. When they log the mountains, they have this place that they just drag the logs straight down. And so it was really steep and really treacherous, really rocky. And we were very relieved when we got down to their familiar voices when they helped us get down. That wasn't me. That was Brian. The next time we went to the top of the mountain, the next year we let my friend Craig choose the mountain, and we drove up to the top. The ladies drove down. We had kids with us, and we were going to walk from the top of the mountain down into camp. Well, we got to the location and started down. Actually, where as high as we could get up was about partway down. So we walked up to this fire tower, and then we got disoriented, I guess, when we left the fire tower. We walked down the wrong side of the mountain into this community where we were like, this is on the wrong side of the mountain. This is not where we wanted to go. So we had to get the kids and turn around and walk back up to the top of the mountain, only to go down because there was no cars and there's no cell signal down there. And I think we didn't have our walkie-talkies that time. And so we were stuck. And that was not pleasant with kids walking down and then up and then back down. We were a wanderer, and we were not beloved by our children when we did that. So anyhow, thankfully, neither of those times I chose the activity. I'm not at fault. That time, either of those times. Let me see where I am. So, the psalm begins, I look up to the mountains, does my help come from there? That can also be a question that jabs at us. Like, come on, you know that there is no help in the mountains, nor anything that we might look to for help that isn't God. That could be a way of interpreting that question. So where does our help come from? Our help comes from the Lord, the psalmist says, the maker of heaven and earth. That's verse 2. In this psalm, the mountain serves as a reminder of God's greatness and God's constant presence in our lives. It is easy in life, as you know, to lose our bearings, to get disoriented, to become overwhelmed by the trials, the activities, the strivings, to immerse ourselves in achieving and doing and going, that we become overwhelmed in life. This psalm, I think, serves as a reminder that in all of that, God is our source of help and strength, and we are beloved wanderers. I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. As we wander through life, the gentle invitation of this psalm is to seek the Lord in all of life, in every journey, and in every day. Never stop looking for the Lord. Never give up hope. No matter where you are or what you are doing, look for where the Lord is on your way. For God is our source of help and hope and is always nearby and present, always available to us. That's what this psalmist is trying to communicate to us. As we wander through life, seek the Lord in all of life, in every journey, in every day. As a boy, growing up in Cordova, Maryland, about an hour west of here, near Easton, about 7 miles from Easton, I spent a lot of time hunting. And you know that about me. You know that I'm an avid outdoorsman. I'm an avid hunter. I love spending time in the woods. And at this particular time in my life, I spent a lot of time in the goose pit. Now, I didn't have good goose hunting opportunities where I grew up, but my cousin Danny and Steve Geib had a farm near Rock Hall, Maryland, that had wonderful goose hunting opportunities, and they often took me with them to hunt this particular property. And it was lots of fun. But I'll never forget that Danny had this way of being, this way of doing this hunt, that at the time I thought he was crazy. I thought he was a religious fanatic. Because every time we would go on a hunt, before we left his driveway, he would lead us in a prayer for safe travels and safety and a great hunt. And then as soon as we got to Rock Hall and we got all set up in the goose blind, before we could make the first goose call, he would lead us in another prayer, thanking God for getting us there safely and asking God to give us a successful hunt. And then after the hunt was done, he would do the same thing. So that for the third time in that day, he would pray a prayer of asking God to be with us, to guide us, to get us home safely. And then for the fourth time in the day, now you see why I'm thinking he's a religious nut. For the fourth time in the day, when we got back to Cordova, he would offer another prayer, very similar to the previous three that he prayed. And I just thought he was crazy. Until I got thinking about it this week as I was thinking about this psalm and recalling this. Now, he was a bit eccentric, and he was definitely in love with the Lord and didn't make any bones about that. But what Danny was doing, I think, was modeling for Steve and myself because we were younger. Steve was just a couple years younger than I am, and that was Danny's son. He was modeling for us that God watches over us at all times, in all places, and in all our activities, even in hunting, even when we're sitting in a hole that's dug in the middle of a field that's called a goose pit, waiting for geese to fly over us so we could shoot them. We indeed are beloved wanderers. God is our source of help and is a constant presence in our lives. And God journeys with us wherever we are and wherever we go. That's the message of Psalm 121. Listen again as I read it. I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let you stumble. The one who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel never slumbers or sleeps. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day or the moon at night. The Lord keeps you from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever. So the psalmist is saying God is our hope and our help. God doesn't sleep. God doesn't get tired of watching over us. God doesn't leave his post. He's always present to us and is with us in all of our wanderings. The Lord will watch over our going and our coming, now and forever. What a beautiful message. What a beautiful reality. Psalm 121 reminds us not to give up, to not let life and all that is part of living overwhelm you and get you down. God is our help and hope. God is always watching over you, protecting you, loving you, guiding you, encouraging you. God doesn't sleep or tire of watching over you. When you find yourself in a deep pit or a dark valley, look up. See the mountain. See that dome. Know that God is your hope and your help. Look up. One of the most important things we can do when we find ourselves faced with trials and swallowed up in a pit of darkness is look up. I don't know about you if you've ever paid attention to the difference in the way you feel, but when you look down and then when you lift your head up, there's a difference in the way you feel physically. Looking down or around where we are and when we're in such a situation only deepens the struggle and it deepens the overwhelmed feeling that we get. Looking up helps us to feel different and better about ourselves because we're looking for God who is our source of help and hope. God is there, brothers and sisters, even when you can't see him. So keep looking up. Keep searching for him. He won't leave you or forsake you. Jesus promised that. In fact, if you've been with us in the journey of reading through Matthew yesterday, if you're on track, you would have read that. Jesus' last words to his disciples in Matthew was, I will be with you always, even to the end of the age. And he made good on that promise when he rose from the dead, demonstrating to us with his very life that he is stronger than death, and that he has power that is greater than the power of death. And before he ascended to heaven to reign forever with God the Father, he gave us the gift of the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, a constant companion on the journey of life, a constant source of help and hope and encouragement for us, one who nudges us to act, one who convicts us of our wrong, one who empowers us to love and minister to others. Brothers and sisters, we are beloved of God, and as we wander through this life, we are beloved wanderers. Look up. God is a constant source of hope and a constant presence in our lives. He never sleeps or tires of watching over you. As you may know by now, I walk at the mall every morning, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week for an hour. I began that journey faithfully in 2009. Prior to 2009, I walked occasionally at the mall, but in 2009, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, when my blood sugar level, when they tested it, was 677 and my A1C was 10.7, I knew then that I had no choice but to make some critical life changes. And I knew that adding exercise on a regular basis was going to be a part of that, in addition to the diet changes that I made. It's part of what allowed me to lose 51 pounds and to get my A1C down from 10.7 to 5.6 in 3 months. Walking at the mall has been a game changer for me. It's been important because it's climate controlled, it's air conditioned in the summer, it's heated in the winter. It takes away the excuses. You don't get wet. It's not like walking in your neighborhood or bike riding in your neighborhood. It's just a couple miles from my house. I can do it every day. And then the benefits of that, besides the health benefits, there's a whole community of senior citizens that are there that have become good friends of mine, that have taken an interest and support us, our youth, that support us in the garden, that just welcome us into their little community, and the connections have been really neat. About a year ago, I started noticing that there were little notes like this laying around the mall in the morning. That note says, "Trust in the Lord." It's just a little piece of paper that somebody's written on and torn off and left lay. This particular one is down by, and that was Friday. They're there almost every day in different spots throughout the mall. This one was down by Boscov's. Down at the Boscov's end, there's a water fountain, not a drinking fountain, but a spouting water fountain for decoration. And that was on the ledge. Sometimes I've seen them where they've been on the edge and somebody walking by, the wind has created enough that it blows it on the ground and then it becomes a piece of trash. And so for a whole year, it's been a situation where I kind of was indignant and kind of frustrated with the person that did that. And I thought, they're leaving these lay around. They fall on the ground. They become trash. They become something that somebody has to pick up after them. And, who are they? And what are they doing? And why are they doing this? And I was trying to figure out who it was, and I thought I had pinned it down to these two ladies that always walk together, and I know what church they go to, and it's the kind of church that might encourage their people to do this kind of thing, And then one day they were gone. They weren't there, and these notes were still there. And so I thought, well, it can't be them. And so then I thought it was this other lady, and then the same thing happened. One day she was not there, and these notes were still there. And it's I don't know who does it, but it's somebody that does it, and they walk 5 days a week because they're there on different days. They're not there every day, but they're there most days in the week. And on Friday, as I walked by this note, I took the picture, and I thought, you know what? my attitude toward these is changed because Psalm 121 has helped me realize that maybe this is an encouragement that this person has left. Maybe it's not trash, and if it falls on the ground, maybe the person that picks it up needs to read those encouraging words. Maybe it's not this person looking down on people, but maybe it's their way of encouraging people that wherever they are, as they wander around in life, that they're beloved and that they can simply trust in the Lord, and He will be their help, their hope, their strength. And so as I say this, I have to confess to you that I've had a change of heart. And whoever that person is, I now say, God bless them. And I'm grateful for the ministry that they offer. And I'm grateful that God gives us opportunities to repent of our ill feelings towards someone and something that they do, and to see it from a different perspective. Because I think that Psalm 121 is that kind of is illustrative of Psalm 121. That's kind of the encouragement that Psalm 121 is trying to do for us. I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let you stumble. The one who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, He who watches over Israel never slumbers or sleeps. The Lord Himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord keeps you from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and as you go, now and forever. Brothers and sisters, as we wander through this life, know this: God is your strength, your help, your hope. He is always there. Look up and trust Him.